Last class, I think last till last class, we were discussing about control of DC motors. Okay, so we were discussing about the control of DC motors. What we have seen? We have seen few things, mainly phase controlled converters, phase controlled converters. This is one converter. The other one is chopper. Using these two converters, using these two, that is phase controlled converters and the choppers. Okay. So, so using phase controlled converters and choppers, we have seen that how the speed and torque of the DC motors, okay, have been controlling. Okay. Now, today's class we will go to the induction motors. So how we control the speed and torque of induction motors. Okay. What are the different ways and all these things we study. So now before we go to the control of induction motors, so first we will see briefly how an induction motor works. Okay. So I hope you have got this already in your previous classes, previous semester. So, but I would like to tell that. So, induction motor, you have a stator, okay, uh, and you have a rotor. So this is rotor, whereas this outer cylinder is stator. So the inner cylinder is rotor, outer cylinder is stator. In between the stator and rotor, you have the air gap. Okay, now you give the power supply to your stator. So generally, if it is three-phase induction motor, so you give three-phase power supply to the stator. So when you give three-phase power supply to the stator, what exactly happens is that, if you remember, there is a rotating magnetic field we produce. Rotating magnetic field. So rotating magnetic field will be produced in the air gap. Okay, that magnetic field will link with the rotor. Then once it links with the rotor, then EMF will be induced in the rotor, and this EMF. Now once again, the rotor has different types of connections. Two famous connections are there. One is squirrel cage, another one is slip ring. In either cases, what you find out is that the rotor terminals are closed. Okay, of course, in case of the squirrel cage, they get directly shorted, whereas in case of the slip ring, you have the possibility to connect some extra resistor to achieve some performance to achieve or to enhance the performance of your induction motor. So whatever the reasons, in both the cases, the rotor terminals or the rotor circuit is closed. Once the rotor circuit is closed, what you find out is that the EMF induced in the rotor will produce current in the rotor circuit. Then those currents will produce another magnetic field. So now the stator magnetic field, and the rotor magnetic field both will interact. So when both will interact, as per Faraday's law, you will find out a torque will be produced. Okay, or the using the basic principles which we have, a torque will be produced. As one of the cylinder is stator, the other one is rotor. So definitely the stator is rigidly fixed. Only one option is there, that is the rotor is there. So the rotor tends to move in a particular direction. Okay, it depends upon some other things also there, that how many number of poles are there, and what is the direction of the current. Based upon all these things, it produces a torque, and that torque will force this rotor to run in a particular direction, to move in a particular direction. Okay, so then you can say the rotor is running now. This is how the starting of your induction motor is there. So you give this supply to the stator, and one more thing is that you should know about your induction motor. It is a single excited machine. It is a single excited machine. Unlike your DC motors, where you have stator is there, your rotor is there. So stator has the field, whereas the rotor has the armature. Okay, so you have to give supply to the both field and armature. You have to give supply to the both stator and rotor. So your DC motors are double excited machines. So you have to give excitation for both. So double excitation. So two excitations are there. One is for the field, another is for the armature. So the DC motors are double excited machines. Whereas your induction motor is a single excited machine because you are giving supply only to the stator. You don't give any supply to the rotor. Okay. So if you once you give the supply to the stator, now the stator construction, stator windings, I told you already that they are also shorted. Means the stator windings are also closed path. So they makes a closed path. So this supply will produce current and those currents in the stator windings in turn will produce rotating magnetic field. Now I hope why there is a rotating magnetic field. I hope you know this thing, that because of this three-phase supply, because of the three-phase supply and three-phase windings construction, because of the three-phase supply and because of the three-phase winding construction, rotating magnetic field will be produced. This rotating magnetic field, now it's rotating in the sense what it is also rotating in the air gap. With how much speed is? With synchronous speed. Synchronous speed in the sense supply is there, supply frequency, supply has some frequency is there. So 120 F by P. So F is the supply frequency, P is the number of poles. Based upon that, you will have some speed, and this is the speed. This is the speed of the rotating magnetic field, and we call this speed as synchronous speed. So with this speed, the magnetic field will rotate in the air gap, and that magnetic field will link to the rotor. Then once it links to the rotor, as per Faraday's law, EMF will be induced in the rotor windings, and as the rotor windings, whether it is a squirrel cage or whether it is a slip ring, the rotor windings are closed. As the rotor windings are closed, some current will flow because there is EMF is there, there is a closed path is there, so definitely some current will flow through the rotor windings, and these currents will produce another magnetic field because every current can conductor. I hope you know this thing that it has the tendency to produce the magnetic field. Okay, so it has the tendency to produce the current. Okay, because of this. So then this current will produce the rotating magnetic field because the current carrying conductor, okay, produce magnetic field. Now already there is a stator magnetic field is there, that is rotating magnetic field is there, and it generates another magnetic field. Okay, both magnetic field will interact. Something like that. You have a pole, you have a pole, you have a magnet, you have another magnet, not pole, south pole, not pole, south pole. So when you keep both the magnets nearby to each other, what do you expect generally? You must have seen even in the laboratories also that you will feel that one of the sometimes both the magnets will try to either they try to move away or they try to come together. So in this is what you have to understand. There is a force of interaction is there between two magnets. So you also see that magnetic field is there. So both will act as two magnets. So when you bring both magnets nearby to each other, then force of interaction will be there. So that force of interaction, so there is a force of interaction is there between stator and rotor. That we call as torque. So this torque will rotate. When the torque is there, what happens is that one of the part is rigidly fixed. Your stator is rigidly fixed. So only one part is movable one. That is the rotor. So obviously the rotor will move, not the stator. So the rotor will move and will move in a particular direction, either direction or anti-clockwise. It will rotate in a particular direction, clockwise or anti-clockwise. So then once it runs, you call that as torque production. See, this is basics. This you have already studied in your previous semester subjects. Machines classes you must have studied. I'm just bringing this here so that we require some basics of this. Okay. Now, how do you control the speed of the induction motor? Because that how to control the speed. So what are the ways to control the speed and torque? So before we go to the speed and control, uh, before that I would like to draw the speed torque characteristics. I would like to remind you. Just it's a it's just like revision, okay? So because we have got all this already, but for the topic, these things are required. So I would like to just revise once. Okay. So here now, that, slip is there. Different slips are there, or okay, or either you can take. So how do you draw the curve here? How do you draw the curve here for the speed of characteristics? So several ways are there. Either you can take the speed on x-axis or y-axis, okay, or you can take a torque on x-axis, y-axis. Sometimes you see in sometimes of textbooks, what you observe is that even you have even you have seen this thing that uh, one important thing you must have seen, even in case of slip is taken on, slip is also taken, okay, slip is also taken. So just recall, I will just draw that. So we'll discuss only the motoring part. We will not take the other quadrants. We'll just have this only motoring case we'll take. So we'll draw fish. Yeah, this is approximately. We can take this as a Peter characteristics. Okay. So, so now you see now. So this one. So this is speed. This is torque. Okay. So now you see here few things of this speed torque characteristics of a reduction motor. We just tell the points which require for us in further discussions that I will tell now. See here, the speed is zero here. Okay, the speed is zero here. The speed is zero at this point. Then what is the torque here? You generally call this a starting torque. You call this torque as starting torque. So this point I will say here. So at this point the speed is zero. So just like you give the supply, you give the supply immediately. So as soon as you give the supply immediately, there will be torque on the rotor. This just now we have seen in the discussion that this torque you can call them as starting torque. This torque you can call them as starting torque. Okay, now what you must understand here is that we see this point, another point I will take it as B, point B. So at this point the torque is maximum. So you call this as maximum torque point. Whereas this point you call it as C, and you can consider this point as it is zero torque. See now, torque is zero here. So few things you just see here that when the speed is zero at point A, what do you find at point A? Speed is zero. the torque is non-zero. So now this torque, which is non-zero, you call this torque as starting torque. This torque you can call it as starting torque. This is point A. So now there is a point B is there. Point B is there. So what is the point B here? At this point, what do you find out? The torque is maximum. That's the point B. Torque is maximum. Torque is maximum. Okay. So torque is maximum, and now what about the speed here? What about the speed here? So the speed is 0 here, whereas the speed is maximum at point C, because the graph is not extended beyond that. So we will consider this point as maximum speed. Okay. So now remember now that maximum speed in the sense, don't think that this is the speed and the motor cannot go beyond this. It is not like that. Just the operating speed it is. As we are operating in the first quadrant, in the first quadrant, for the proper operation of your motor, you can consider point C is the maximum speed. If you go beyond that, the function of the induction motor may not be as satisfactory as like this. So that's the point that I said that it's better that we'll restrict the speed at this point itself. At this point C itself, we'll restrict the speed. Okay. So now torque is maximum. Okay. So where about the speed now? Speed is, we can consider that. You see yourself, where is the point B? So this point B is near to C, whereas point A you see here. So we can say speed is near to maximum. See, generally the speed is near to maximum in the sense, I will tell you one thing, that this maximum in the sense it's a synchronous speed. Maximum in the sense which is synchronous speed. So the speed is, so the point B is nothing but at the point B, the speed here which is there here, the speed here, so corresponding to point B, it is near to C. So I will write this thing that it is near to maximum, or the maximum in the sense here. So this point C is corresponding to synchronous speed. So then I will write now point C. What about the point C? So point C, what do you find about point C? Speed is synchronous speed. What about the torque? Torque is 0. This is very important. So these are the 3 points. So we will not go more discussion beyond this. Okay, I would like to stick at this point itself, that the speed is synchronous speed, whereas the torque is 0. So now starting torque, there is a starting torque, something like this, that you have the induction motor and the induction motor is loaded. Something, say for example, you have a washing machine is there. Okay, just for example. So you fill the washing machine with all the clothes. Okay. Now assume that the motor which is there in the washing machine is induction motor. Say for example, induction motor. Okay. For the time being, okay, induction motor also you can use, but nowadays they are not using induction motor. They are using some special kinds of machines. But the olden days they were using induction machines only. Okay. So that case I will discuss now. So you have a washing machine. Now the washing machine is full of clothes. Okay. Now you didn't start the washing machine yet. Okay. Now as soon as you give the power supply to the washing machine, the torque, you see here, the torque which is there, that you call it as starting torque. So now this is the torque developed by the induction motor. Okay. And now what you have to see here is that this starting torque, I will take this starting torque. Now there is another torque that called load torque. What is the load torque here? What is the load here? The clothes are the load here. So if more clothes are there, then TL will be more. When more clothes are there, TL will be more. When less clothes are there, TL will be less. So now what we have to take precaution here is that this starting torque of the induction motor should be greater than TL. It should be greater than TL. If it is not greater than TL, then what will happen now? The load torque is more than the starting torque. So starting torque is not enough, okay, to drive the load. Starting torque is not enough to drive. So this situation may arise. So you must take precautions. You must take precautions that the starting torque is more than load torque. So how do you achieve that? That you will study in the further classes. Okay, just keep this point in mind that the starting torque should be greater than the load torque. Otherwise, it will halt the motor. It will halt the washing machine. So what if washing machine cannot start? If that is the case. Okay, so that's the thing. So this is the point you must consider regarding point A. Now regarding point B. So that's the maximum torque. So that's the maximum torque of the induction motor. Point B is the maximum torque. So what is the maximum torque at that point? What is the speed at that point? Is something like this. You can take N. I will take this as N1, N2, N3. So N2 is there. So N2 is the speed at which the torque is maximum. So that's point B. So this is also required for us. Why it is required for us? Why it is required for this is that, see, I just now I told you that, for example, instead of washing machine, you have a grinder is there. Say for example, you have grinder is there. So I hope you know that the load torque in grinder is very high. So there you can tackle that. You can make the induction motor to achieve maximum torque by running the induction motor at a certain speed. Okay, so that's what I'm saying, that at heavy loads in the sense like grinders are there, or some more cranes also there. Some cranes also there, and some other kinds of, so in the manufacturing units or in the factories you'll find out some heavy loads are there. So when the loads are high, then obviously their load torque is also more. So when their load torque is more, then definitely the induction motor we are using, okay, for that induction motor the maximum torque also should be high. So you will always try to operate at point B, so that you can achieve maximum torque. And so that you should take precaution that what should be the speed at that point. So if you run the motor at this speed, then you can achieve the maximum torque. That is the logic here. So that's about point B. Now coming to point C, what you need to understand in point C is that if you run the motor at synchronous speed, torque production will be zero. So what is the torque production? Zero torque production. Zero torque production in the sense, even though you give the supply to your induction motor, torque will not be produced. In the induction motor if you run the motor at synchronous speed, and the point C is corresponding to synchronous speed. Okay. Why it is so? It is synchronous speed is that simple thing. Why it is so is that, see here, just now I told you that this is a stator and this is a rotor. Okay. So stator will produce a magnetic field that we call it as rotating magnetic field. It means they are having a magnets. Now, okay, not okay. Some magnets I will put here. So they produce a magnetic field in the air gap. This is North Pole, South Pole. Okay. North Pole. So assume that they are rotating. They are rotating with certain speed. And what is that speed? I told you it is synchronous speed. The speed of the rotating magnetic field is synchronous speed. That its value is equal to 120 F/P. This we know. So the speed of the magnetic field in the air gap is rotating with synchronous speed. So now, for example, the rotor which is there here, it is rotating with some speed other than synchronous speed. Say for example, synchronous speed is 1200 RPM, just for example. Whereas the speed of the rotor here is 1000 RPM. So, and I told you already that rotor is also having magnetic field. So it also has some magnets. So one magnet is rotating with 1200 RPM, the other magnet is rotating with 1000 RPM. Just imagine yourself. One magnet is rotating with 1200 RPM. Another magnet is rotating with 1000 RPM. So when both the magnets are running with different speed, then there is a relative speed is there. Relative speed. What is the relative speed in this case? 200 RPM is the relative speed. So when there is a relative speed between two magnets, when there is a relative speed between two magnets, then what do you find out? You will find out that you will find out that what you find out is that this location of the pole is always changing. The location of the poles, stator poles and the rotor poles, they are always changing. So when they are always changing, then there is always force of interaction. There is continuous force of interaction, or I will say continuous torque. There is a continuous torque will be there. This continuous torque will rotate the rotor. That's what happens exactly. This continuous rotor will rotate the torque. Whereas if you think yourself that the rotor is also running with synchronous speed, in the sense the stator magnetic field or the rotating magnetic field, its speed is 1200 rpm, whereas the rotor speed is also 1200 rpm. Then what do you find out that this both the speeds are same? When both the speeds are same, no relative speed, there won't be any relative speed. So when there is no relative speed, so there is no relative speed between both the poles. When there is no relative speed between both the poles, then what does that mean? It means that you don't find out any torque production. So the location of the poles remains fixed. No relative speed in the sense it looks like stationary. You just imagine that you have vehicle 1, vehicle 2. It's vehicle 1, vehicle 2. So both are moving at the same speed. When both are moving at the same speed, so how do you just how it is visible that they are stationary with respect to that? With respect to one, it is stationary. With respect to two, one is stationary. So it looks like it is stationary. Okay, there won't be any motion. So because of this no relative speed, because of this no relative motion, you will say that the torque production will be zero. So the torque production is zero. So then when the torque production is zero, then that's it. It slow down and it cannot drive the load. That's it. So that's the point. So you generally don't operate the induction motor at this point. You should take this thing that you should not operate the induction motor at synchronous speed exactly. If you do that, then there won't be torque production. So now this is about briefly about the induction motor. So now one more thing is there about the induction motor. Okay. Now we'll recall the equivalent circuit of the induction motor. Okay, what is the equivalent circuit of the induction motor? Okay. Sorry for the disturbance. Okay, so we'll so what I was saying that equivalent circuit, the equivalent circuit. Equivalent circuit of induction motor. So what is the equivalent circuit of induction motor? We'll see here now. Okay. So I hope you know all this already, but directly we'll just do now. And I will draw the equivalent circuit referred to stator. We draw the equivalent circuit referred to stator. So So you have, okay, so okay, this is now you have the XM is also there. Okay. So this is stator voltage, stator. So I have drawn the equivalent circuit to refer to stator, and this parallel branch is there. It is not necessary. Like I told you in case of just recall. Okay, parallel branch is there. Even though the parallel branch is there, it does not have any effect on this side. It does not have any effect on this side. On this side, it does not have any effect. Why it does not have any effect on this side is that, why it does not have any effect? Because you know, as it is parallel branch, the voltage is same here. Okay, and there won't be any voltage reduction on these remaining parts because of this parallel branch. Okay, so the voltage here also, how much it is, the voltage here also plus minus, it is also V. Okay. So now what is this one? R1 X1. What are these R1 X1? R1 X1 are the stator resistance and stator reactance. It is stator resistance and stator reactance. Okay, so nothing else is there. Okay, what about another resistance? We see now. What is the another resistance? Now we have R2 dash, R2 dash, and X2 dash we have. Okay, so R2 dash by S and X2 dash. Now it's very important. I put S there. What is S? S is sleep. This is the equivalent circuit. I hope I don't need to explain from the starting of the equivalent circuit because you have got already. I'm just trying to recall. Nothing else is there. Okay. So equivalent circuit I have drawn right now. And then what do you find out then? What do you find out here? Okay. So I will take this current as I2. Sometimes I2 I will take. Okay. And this is the voltage. Okay, now but for the simplification purpose, to avoid confusion, I would like to erase this part. Which part? This parallel branch, because this part does not have any role on the rotor side. It does not affect on the rotor side, because why on the rotor side is that we are more interested on the rotor side because the torque production is there on the rotor side itself. Okay, so this is the equivalent circuit of the induction motor. You can say approximate equivalent circuit. So then how can I write I2 here from this circuit diagram? So I will tell one more thing, that R1 is the stator resistance, X1 is the stator reactance, R2 dash by S is the stator rotor resistance referred to stator. Okay, X2 dash is the rotor reactance referred to stator. Okay, so we have already converted from the rotor side to the stator side. Okay, so S is the slip here. I hope you know this thing also, this thing, that the EMF in the rotor and some more parameters and the reactance in the rotor, it depends upon the slip. This you know. What is slip? I will just recall. Slip is equal to some synchronous speed by rotor speed by synchronous speed. This is the slip. Okay, so the range of slip is here. I will so now you see this range of slip. Okay, so what is the range of slip? It is 0 to 1 usually. hope you know this thing that slip is at minimum it is 0, at maximum it is 1. And now there is another negative slip is also there. Maybe for some kind of situation, but for the motoring operation, the slip is from 0 to 1. So we can stick to that. The slip is from 0 to 1. Okay, now you see now yourself. Okay, what you have to understand here is that sometimes even the slip is greater than 1 also. That's what I'm saying, that these possibilities, this case and this case, they are our beyond our discussion. It is beyond our discussion. Whenever we require, we'll just go when these situations will arise. In general, when you operate the machine as a motor, the slip is from 0 to 1. Okay, so we'll stick to this one, 0 to 1. Okay, so now, so this derivation I don't need to, so I don't want to bring here. I just directly draw the equivalent circuit of the induction motor refer to stator. This one. Then what is I2 here? How can I write I2? Simple thing, V by square root of, you see now, R1 R2 dash by S, both are resistances. So R1 plus R2 dash by S whole square plus X1 plus X2 dash whole square. So this is your I2. This is your I2. Okay, so this is your I2. Okay, this you know I2. Then further what we do is that, see, ultimately what I'm trying to do is that I want to derive the relationship for torque. What is the relationship for torque? This is what exactly I'm trying to do now, right now. Okay, so how to do this is that, see, recall how can I get the torque? So torque can be obtained from see, induction motor. I will just recall what is happening in induction motor. See, this is stator, this is rotor. So you give some supply here. When you give some supply here, then some air gap. In the air gap, some power will be produced. PAG. I will write air gap power. Okay. Some air gap power will be produced. So this air gap. So stator power is there. So from stator power, of course, you can take this copper loss in the stator. Then remaining air gap power will be produced. This air gap power will enter into the rotor. Once it enters into the rotor, then rotor also has some copper loss. So copper loss, if you subtract from the air gap, then you will get the power, remaining power. So it means I will write here PAG minus PCU. What is PAG? PA is the power in the air gap, whereas PCU in the sense the copper loss in the rotor. So when you subtract this, whatever the power you get, that power is used to drive the load. That power is used to drive. Where is the load here? This is the load. Mechanically coupled here. So this is the load. Okay. This is the load here. Okay. So the difference between air gap power and the copper loss, that power we will use to drive the load. So that is the actual power. We call that as PM. Because this power, okay, is used to drive the load. Okay. So in another words, we can say this is the power you require for the derivation of the torque. So what is the relationship between torque and power? You know this thing, P is equal, okay, 2 pi nt. P is equal to 2 pi nt by 60. So power PM by omega. Okay. What is omega? Omega is the angular speed. So this is the torque equation. So now how do you find the power then? Yeah, we can find the power here using I2 and everything. We can find out the power. Now this derivation. So this is part of the previous discussion itself. So use all these things. And then see all these things today. Entire thing I'm just revising about the induction motor, so that we will start the actual topic. The actual topic is not this. Actually, this is a revision of that, so that when I start the new topic, so you should not have this doubt that how comes all these equations. That's the reason that I have been explaining all these things. Okay. So now this torque, when you do all this simplification, I just suggest you that you take any induction motor textbook, then you can revise how comes all these things. Okay. But I hope the only intention here is that to make you understand that that there is a torque production is there. So now it becomes now 3 by omega s. Okay, 3 by omega s r2 dash r2 dash by s r2 dash by s, okay, into v square by v square by r1 plus r2 dash by s whole square plus x1 plus x2 dash whole square. This is the equation for the electromagnetic torque produced by the induction motor. So that's it. So now we have to see ourselves that this torque depends upon this omega s and v. Okay, all these things are there. Okay, so now we will see here further. Okay, so I hope you will remember this equation when we come to the next class. I want you to go through how come this torque. There's the logic I told you that torque, it is the ratio of the power with angular speed. So power you will get from here. How do you get the power here? So you will get the power from this. You will get the power from this equation. So some current is there, some power, some copper loss is there. So from the power you subtract the copper loss. Then whatever the power you got, that divided by omega, you will get this equation. Nothing else is there here. There's nothing else is there. Now what about this three? Is that let me clarify here. This is for three-phase induction motor. We were discussing about a three-phase induction motor. So for a three-phase induction motor, you will get three here. Okay, because three phases are there, so it is multiple with three. Okay, so I will rewrite once again so that you can easily remember 3 by omega s r2 dash by s v square by r1 plus r2 dash by s whole square plus x1 plus x2 dash whole square. So this is the thing. Okay, so now I would like to stop this here itself. Uh, Now, if you have any doubts in this, you can say. Now, one more thing I will tell you that in the torque speed characteristics, you see, we have taken speed as an x-axis. In some okay, in some documents you will find out this thing that instead of speed you have the slip. Okay, yes, you can put slip also. Why? So because there is a relationship between slip and speed. What is that? Ns minus nr by ns. So speed is 0 in this sense. What is the slip? Ns by ns 1. Speed is equal to synchronous speed. Is what is the slip? S is equal to 0. So you can take like this. Here the slip is 1. Here the slip is 0. S is 0 here. S is 1 here. So something like this. The slip is decreases. So the speed increases. The slip decreases in the sense speed increases. So initially the slip is maximum because the rotor speed is 0. So then nr will be 0. So ns by ns is 1. So initially the slip is maximum. Now you go on decrease the slip. At one point the slip becomes 0. So that's it. So the scale you can take like this. Either x-axis you can take either speed increases in this direction, or you take slip increase in this direction. So both the axes you can take. Both kinds of axes you will find out in several documents.